Well, I want to just say hello to everybody. So glad that you have joined us. I wonder today, did you do anything special? Something special for those ladies who look after you and care for you. Of course, today is Mother's Day when we thank those ladies in our life. And maybe you've taken time to write a card or do the dishes, maybe make breakfast, or just taken time to say thank you for what those ladies do for you. I wonder if you were to think of one of those ladies, what word you would use to describe them. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to think of a word that best describes one of those ladies in your life. Are you ready? Five, four, three, two, one. I'm sure there were lots of different answers there. But I want to tell you about a mum that I read about in the Bible. And if I was to use one word to describe her, I would use the word brave. This mum was super, super brave. And we'll see that as we learn a little bit more about her. She lived in a place called Egypt, which is a country that some of you will have learned a little bit about in school. But it's a country which has really impressive buildings, a country that has really unusual buildings called pyramids, a country that has really tasty food, and a country that has really good schools. This lady was living in Egypt, but she wasn't actually from Egypt. In fact, she was from a place called Israel. She was an Israelite. And in those days, Israelites were God's people. That's what we read about in the Bible. When we read about the Israelites, they are God's people. And this mum was an Israelite. Why was she in Egypt? She hadn't come to see the buildings. She hadn't come to get a really nice meal or to go to school. In fact, she wasn't the only Israelite that was in Egypt at that time. There were lots and lots and lots of Israelites. Let me tell you why. You see, the man who was in charge of Egypt at the time was called Pharaoh. Pharaoh was a really, really powerful man. But as he looked around about him, he thought, you know what? The Israelites are becoming more and more in number. He started to get worried. Maybe he thought the Israelites would have taken over and he wouldn't have the same power anymore. And he thought to himself, what do I need to do? And he came up with a plan. He decided that he was going to cause all the Israelites to become slaves. In other words, they had to work really hard. They didn't get paid for the work that they did. They had to make bricks and build cities and work in the fields. If they didn't work hard enough, they would get told off. It was really, really tough being an Israelite in Egypt at this time. But you know, God hadn't forgot about his people. God knew what was happening to the Israelites. Pharaoh was powerful and he put them in this position where they were now slaves. But God is even more powerful than Pharaoh. Things were really, really hard for the Israelites at that time. But you know, in this mum's family that I was telling you about, there was just a little bit of excitement. This brave mum that I was telling you about, she had quite an unusual name. Her name was Jochebed. I wonder, could you say that with me after two? One, two. Jochebed. Let's try it again. One, two. Jochebed. Jochebed was married to a man called Amram, and they had two children. Miriam, the sister, and Miriam was the big sister, and Aaron was the brother. This family of four had found out that they were soon going to be a family of five, because Amram and Jochebed were going to have another little baby. I wonder, were they going to have a baby girl or a baby boy? Maybe you can guess. Well, do you know, after a little bit of time, this family welcomed a beautiful baby boy into their family. and there was a lot of excitement. There was a lot of happiness. But there was also something really, really difficult as well. Because Pharaoh once again was getting worried. As he looked around about him, he thought, you know what? The Israelites are still increasing in numbers. I need to do something more. He decided that he was going to make a law that just shows how cruel and how wicked and how mean Pharaoh was, how he used his power in the wrong way. He decided that any baby boy that was born would have to die. That was a really, really serious thing. And you can imagine how hard that must have been for Jochebed and for her family, knowing that this is what Pharaoh wanted for the baby boys that were born. But Jochebed followed the one true God. Jochebed loved God and followed God, and God gave her the courage that she needed to do the right thing and gave her the ideas and the guidance that she needed. You can imagine how hard it must have been for Jochebed. She had just had this little baby, and I'm sure all she wanted to do was to tell everybody about it. Maybe that's been like in your family, if you have had a little baby brother or sister or cousin, and you just want to tell everybody, or your mum and dad, they just want to tell people and show people, maybe show photographs, and just enjoy this happy news with other people. But Jochebed knew that she couldn't do this. She had to make sure that she kept her little baby really, really quiet. She couldn't tell anybody about him. She couldn't take him out for walks. She had to try and gently quieten him whenever he would cry. I'm sure maybe if she was rocking him, she had to sing to him really, really softly so that nobody else would hear. And I'm sure that his big sister, Miriam, that she also helped her mum in doing these things as well. But this little baby, well, he got bigger. His crying got louder. And when he was 3 months old, it was really, really, really difficult to keep this little baby a secret anymore. He had just gotten too big and too noisy. Jochebed was trusting in God though. She was trusting in God and looking for his direction, and God gave her an idea. She got to work and she went and she gathered some reeds, which are like really thick, strong grass. And as she gathered these reeds together, she started to weave them into nearly like a little basket. And when she had made that basket, she got some tar and she put it all around it so that it would be waterproof. And then she wrapped her little boy up and placed him in the basket. Well, she had to make sure that there was nobody around. And I'm sure she looked outside carefully to make sure that nobody would see her as she crept down to the bank of the river with her little boy in this little basket that floated. And she set that little basket beside the reeds at the bank of the river. Well, big sister Miriam, she was noticing what was happening, and she continued to watch this little baby boy. Jochebed, I'm sure, found that very hard to leave her little boy there, but she trusted that God was powerful, and she trusted that God would look after her little baby boy. As Miriam watched, she noticed that there were a group of people coming down to the river. As she noticed, she could see that this group of people was a group of ladies. And as they came closer, she noticed that these ladies were no ordinary ladies. One of them, in fact, was Pharaoh's daughter, the princess. The rest of the ladies were her servants. Do you know, as Miriam watched, they came down closer and closer to the riverbank where her little brother was in this basket. And as they were there, the princess noticed something. She noticed that there was something in the reeds that she had not seen before. And she asked one of her servants to go and to get it. The little basket was bobbing up and down in the water. The servant got the little basket, brought it up to Pharaoh's daughter and opened it. And you can imagine how surprised they were when they saw that inside this little basket was a baby boy. You know, Pharaoh's daughter knew the law that her father had put out in the land, and she knew that this little baby was one of the Israelite babies, but she wanted to protect this little baby. She didn't want to hurt him. God was working this out. God is more powerful than Pharaoh, and God was even using Pharaoh's own daughter in his plan to protect this little boy and his people. Well, Miriam, she saw what had happened, and she didn't miss an opportunity, because she went straight away and asked the princess a question. She said, "Do you want me to get one of the Israelite ladies to come and to help you look after this little boy?" And when Pharaoh's daughter heard that, she said, "Well, yes, that would be great." Miriam knew exactly the right person for this job. Who was it going to be? Who was this Israelite that she was going to get? It was her mum, Jochebed. Jochebed was going to be the lady that Miriam was going to get to help with the baby. Now, not only did Jochebed get to look after her little boy, but she even got paid for doing it. Jochebed had been brave. It wasn't easy for her to protect her little boy like that. She could have got into a lot of trouble, but she knew it was the right thing to do, and she was trusting in God. And you know, that's a wonderful thing whenever you are following God. God gives you the courage that you need. Sometimes we're in situations that we have to do things that are tough and that are difficult and that require us to be brave, but God gives us the courage that we need to be able to do this. You know, Pharaoh's daughter gave this little boy a name. Maybe you've heard of this little boy before, because he was given the name Moses, which means taken out of the water. Moses was raised up in the palace, and God had special plans for this little baby, because in fact, when this little boy would grow up, God was going to use this little baby whenever he was a man to help his people get out of slavery again, and to direct them to the land that he had for them. God's plans are bigger than our plans, and God is so much more powerful than even the most powerful person on this earth. He was going to bring his people to a new land. Moses was going to lead them, and you know, it was in that new land that God's son Jesus was going to be born into. It was in that land where Jesus was going to live a life so different from us, a life where he did everything completely perfectly, where he continually followed God, unlike us, when we so often go our own way and want to do our own thing. But yet Jesus, the Bible tells us, came and lived a life like that because it was only through him that we could be forgiven. Jesus took our punishment whenever he died on the cross, and whenever he died on the cross, he made it possible for us to be forgiven by taking our punishment. But you know, the best bit is that Jesus didn't stay dead. Jesus came alive again, showing that he has the power to forgive you and I, showing that he has the power to fix that broken friendship between God and people. God is a great God. He is more powerful than any person. He is stronger, and his plans are greater. And God used this lady, this brave mum, as part of his big plan to bring people to him. I want to just play us a little song, a song that reminds us of just how strong God's power is, how wonderful it is to know that he is powerful, and how he deserves our praise because of who he is.
When I look good